Welcome to everybody. Welcome to our Women of AR Meet Our Mentors session. So I want to begin with a quick announcement about the USARA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion panel discussion, which is Wednesday, May 19th at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on Facebook Live. Serving on that panel is going to be Kevin Hodder, who is the race director for Eco Challenge Fiji, Clifton Lyles, who was the captain of Team Onyx, which competed at Eco, and he is also chair of the USARA's new DEI task force. I'll be there talking about the Women of AR campaign, and our moderator is Yi-Shun Lai. She's an author and educator in diversity and inclusion. And Yi-Shun and I got together a couple of weeks ago in preparation for that discussion. And I can tell you, she's going to lead a really engaging and interesting conversation about how we can grow and strengthen the sport by addressing some of the barriers to access. So you'll find that event on the USARA Facebook page. I understand you don't have to be on Facebook to watch the live video. So look for a link coming out about that May 19th, mark your calendars. Speaking of Facebook, so the Women of AR Facebook group, I wanted to make sure that everybody's super clear about it and transparent about what the group is. So it's a private group, but it's not limited to women. You may have found already men chiming in every once in a while. So it's basically the online face of the Women of AR campaign, which is a campaign founded on the goal of getting teams of women to compete for the title of USARA National Champions. And now it's sort of taken on this broader mission of recruiting more women to the sport, helping them thrive and succeed once they find the sport. So we see men as having a role in that mission. And in fact, I'm a big proponent of retaining the co-ed team as the elite division for our sport and for the national championship. So this campaign isn't about replacing the co-ed experience. It's about bringing more women into the sport and giving them options to compete in a way that feels comfortable and enjoyable for them. So if you're a woman looking for a safe space where you can interact with other women and discuss more sensitive topics, or maybe you just find mansplaining to be off-putting, I strongly encourage you to join the International Fragile Flowers group, which is a private Facebook group for women only. And I see the two groups as complementary rather than redundant, and I hope you'll find some in both of them. And so one of the things I want to do first is do a screen share of our Facebook group, just so you can see how you access the mentors tab. So here we go. Does everybody see my Facebook screen here? All right. So when you go to the Women of AR page, you'll see on the ribbon here, there's mentorship. You click on mentorship and find a mentor, and you're going to see profiles for all of the women you're meeting here tonight. It tells you just a little bit about them, and start conversation is basically just going to send a Facebook message to whichever one of the women you would like to talk to about maybe mentoring you. So super easy to find, super easy to do. That's it. And I will stop sharing that, but I just wanted to make sure everyone knew exactly how to find that and how to find us online. A really quick note, you might have noticed also that our group is classified as a parenting group. I'm not a parent. We have lots of parents, but it's not a parenting group. The reason we're that is because you have to be that to turn on that mentorship function for whatever reason. So if you notice that oddity, that's why. Okay, so let's get right into meeting our mentors. And how this is going to flow is like this. I'm going to introduce one mentor, tell you a little bit about her, and then she's going to have what we're calling a 2-minute topic. So we've each got a different topic that we kind of wanted to bring to the table to help generate some discussion. So she'll do her 2-minute topic, and then we'll move to the next mentor. She'll do her 2-minute topic, and we're going to move through everybody like that. And then afterwards, we will open up the floor to discussion. And you can shoot me questions as we're going so that you don't sort of lose it from one mentor to the next. And we'll go through some of those questions, or if you want to hold them, and then it should give us about half an hour at the end to take questions. Let's see, we're getting somebody's noise. If I can find a way to do mute all. When you hop on, if you'll mute yourself, that would be awesome. Okay, so we are going to go to our first mentor, Abby Perkis. So Abby, when she volunteered at her first AR in 2007, was positive she'd never take on such an epic challenge. 4 months later, she lined up at the start of her first 6-hour race. And since then, she's competed in dozens of events around the world, ranging from a few hours to several days. She's the co-founder of Rootstock Racing. She's chair of the new USARA board, and she's stood atop the USARA National Championship podium with her team Rootstock Racing twice after having her first baby, Zoe, who's turning 7 years old today. And it looks like Zoe's already left the room. You'll have to bring her back in for a little happy birthday from everybody here in a little bit. So I'm going to turn it over to Abby. She's going to talk a little bit about AR life balance.
Hey gang, it's awesome to see so many folks on here today. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, so Steph asked me to just spend a couple minutes talking about kind of the intersection of AR and life, which is a frequent topic in our house. So I started racing in 2007. My first kid was born in 2014, and we now have an almost 2-year-old as well. And I'm in the unique position of also racing with my husband. So adventure and race directing with my husband. So adventure racing is a huge part of our family life. And we spend a lot of time talking about what that intersection looks like and what it means to be parents, and also have this like really, and also busy professionals, and have this really robust life outside of our kids too. And I think the first thing I'll say is just that, like, I think we are better parents because we have adventure racing and because we have this outlet that our kids get to see. And I think it's great for my husband. I think it's especially great that my kids get to see me as a woman being strong and independent and doing all of these awesome things in the outdoors. So I know that for a lot of you, that's probably like preaching to the choir, and you wouldn't be here if you didn't think that, but I think it's an important thing to just acknowledge. I also think that it's not possible without an awful lot of help, right? So we are incredibly fortunate to have my parents and my sister who live within a few blocks from us. And they are like the best in loco parentis we could ask for when we're out racing together, when we occasionally get to train together, which doesn't happen quite as often when with kids. But really, like, for us, having that support network has been the way that we've been able to be as involved in adventure racing as possible. I think if you didn't have a partner who was racing too, that might be different. But certainly for us, that this wouldn't be possible without that. And I also work, and I know Barbara's going to talk about this in a little bit. I also have found working with a coach to be that like other support network that has allowed me to not just race, but to really enjoy racing, right? So I work with Jen Sager, who a number of folks on this call actually work with, who is an adventure racing coach. She specializes specifically in working with women in the sport. And before I worked with Jen, I trained a lot, but it was a little bit more haphazard. It was kind of whatever I wanted to do that day. And since starting to work with Jen, it totally elevated my performance. I started working with Jen at the beginning of 2017, and we won nationals in September of that year. And I fully credit Jen's programming for my own ability on the race course in that. But consequently, it kind of elevated the rest of our team, because the guys were suddenly like, oh, like, I need to keep up a little bit more. And they will fully admit that. I'm not divulging secrets. But also, like, I have so much more fun racing because I'm not redlining, because I'm not trying to keep up with everybody else, like, because I can lead a pace line, or I can like push the pace on a run, or just like keep up in a way that feels comfortable rather than like just full on exertion. So training with her, having that efficiency of training has allowed me to train more and also makes racing a lot more fun.
Those blowouts are barely there. What?
Oh,
There was like 30 of them. Serious?
I just wanted to say one last thing. Is that okay, Steph? Can I say one more quick thing, Steph? And I also don't want to like give off the illusion that this is totally easy and that our family life is just synchronous and like we make it work effortlessly. Um, the day that I dropped Zoe off at school when I went to nationals in 2017, um, I dropped her off late because it was Yom Kippur and we had done services in the morning, and she was like, my mom has to go race, and so she's not going to be here this weekend. It's like totally teary, and I left totally teary, and you know, like, really, should I be doing this? What's, you know, what are my priorities here? And we won the race, and a friend of mine texted me afterward, and she was like, oh my God, like, can you imagine giving Zoe a better gift than showing her how incredible this like community is, and you are, and this group of women are. And it just like, it totally affirmed for me that like, yeah, there's a lot of priorities that need to get balanced here. And it's challenging and stressful, like on a daily basis, but also it does feel worth it, both for myself and also for kind of like raising strong, independent, cool kids. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Abby. I knew we would do well leading off with you. Sorry, a little glitch here as my outline seems to be hiding behind my Zoom window now, and it won't allow me to minimize. So I'm going to wing it from here. I know that Barb is next, and Barb niece May has been racing a while. And she's done, let's see, she came to adventure racing when she was looking for ways to get into a healthier lifestyle. And that included, for instance, losing 100 pounds. And I want to say she started racing in 2017. She can correct me if I'm wrong. She built up to overnight and then to expedition length races. And I think she's also going to tell us that she is having some great success working with Jen Seger. And we're going to have Barb talk about the value of personal coaching, especially as she is getting past 50.
The cat is out of the bag. Yes, I'm over 50. So I started working with, actually started racing probably a little bit more seriously in 2015, 2016. I think it was 2016, because in 2017, I had my best performance at nationals ever. And that was when I think we were in 6th or 7th place. I was on the masters team for Team New England. But anyway, working with a coach, the reason why I did is that I had a whole life of inactivity and never participated in sports, or I didn't really do anything. I started running in my early 40s and started getting interested in doing something and trying to get healthier. But the bottom line is that I didn't know what I was doing. And like Abby said, it was haphazard, but it was extra haphazard because I really just didn't know anything about training. I mean, I read online about training, but I'm like, I don't even know if what I'm doing is helpful or harmful. And I was training a lot of hours and feeling really fatigued, and didn't know what to apply where. And actually, Steph, you said something in somewhere along the line about the investment in myself, and I never really even thought about it like that. Because you're getting personal coaching, you pay for it, and sometimes you have to get certain types of, not extensive equipment, but a little bit to do it. But I didn't realize, you're right, I needed to make an investment in myself. I've been in my career for over 25 years, and I run a battered women's shelter in Michigan, and I had never thought to invest in myself. And I think the first step truly was losing the weight that I needed to lose to just be baseline healthy. and then getting involved in adventure racing I mean, it's just like the craziest thing. Like I didn't like start mountain biking and then adventure racing. I didn't like trail run and then adventure. I just jumped in and said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it all. And quite enjoyed it. And, you know, it's hard, but I enjoy learning. And Jen has been able to help guide me. And in the process, in the last several years, I've crossed into menopause. And that has changed my training quite a bit, much more interval focused. And, it was a couple of long efforts a week, but really focusing on the intervals. And she said, you know, we can gain some ground in some areas, but sometimes you're just going to have to remember you're trying to focus on not losing ground, which is kind of hard because when I've had weight loss and I've done this and I've done that, and now I'm like fighting hard just to stay static. Feels not great all the time, but I also have lymphedema too. So that's another piece of my puzzle that I have to pay attention to and manage in all of this as well. But getting the personal coaching, or even just if you're not sure about the personal coaching, even the training plans on Training Peaks, I have a friend that's been using them and they're actually pretty good. I was really impressed because she was comparing what she was doing compared to some of the things but having that person you can talk to about nutrition and about fueling and about your personal specific needs, and hanging in there for a while with the person so that they get to know you, I think is really, really helpful. And my life is way beyond what I ever thought it would be. You know, 10 years ago, if someone told me you're 51 and you're an active adventure racer and you're excited because you just bought a house on the river and you are doing something every weekend, and you know you're out in the woods with a map and compass, um I wouldn't have understood what they were saying. So
Super. Barb, thanks. And someone just posted a comment. She was wondering about the Training Peaks program. So she's glad you mentioned that. She was wondering if they were recommended. So terrific. Up next, I managed to retrieve my outline, thankfully. So up next, we've got Casey Hill. Casey's gateway into AR in 2015 was trail running. Over the last 6 years, she's raced solo and on teams in races ranging from 6 to 30 hours. Her primary team is an all-women's team, Chick Points, which has the honor of being the first USARA national champions in the women's team category, and they won the title a second time in 2019. Casey strives to balance and integrate her AR lifestyle with being a wife, a mom, and a registered nurse. I know that that sort of demand is going to sound familiar to a lot of people, and she's going to talk to us about the importance of sleep strategy, sleep hygiene to keeping it all together. So go ahead, Casey.
Okay, so those that know me know I'm kind of fanatic about getting quality sleep because it's something that I've personally struggled with, and something that I also notice is more difficult when I have training peaks or right before a race, right after a race, and that it tends to be, for me, the most important thing in my training, because I can only train as hard as I can recover. And we do all of our recovery while we're sleeping. So to get quality sleep means that we're going to have to cycle through light sleep, times of REM sleep, which is associated with dreaming, and also hitting delta sleep, which is those deeper, slower waves. But that's our restorative sleep. And it's actually the more challenging part of your sleep cycle to hit. But that's when your body repairs itself. That is when your body helps restore and support hormone function, which we know kind of governs all and is the messengers on all of the systems our body is trying to keep running. So in my deep dive and trying to figure out how I could get the best quality sleep, a book that I like is Sleep Smarter, but I feel like I've read a ton of books on sleeping, circadian rhythms, how can I get better sleep in less time? Because as a mom and a working nurse, I do a lot of my training in the morning in the dark by myself, which means I'm getting up early. So I want to make sure that when I go to bed, I'm getting the best sleep possible. But at the end of the day, it's so hard to go from 60 to 0. I feel like our culture is wrapped around the idea of how do we get amped up? How do we go? I think a lot of people in this group, they're really good at going. The hard part is for us to stop, to train our body to lock into our parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest, what we need to do to set ourselves up to sleep well. So some things that we can do habit-wise before going to bed is one of them is blocking out light from your sleep space, because even if people wear stuff over their eyes, your skin has photoreceptive ability and it knows that it's still light outside. So actually sleeping in a dark space, and then also limiting screens and exposure to any type of light. It's referred to as light pollution now. And if you can't, I usually wear blue light blockers after dinner, because blue light triggers in our brains that it's still daytime, and it actually delays melatonin by 90 minutes. So your melatonin, which is a hormone that helps you achieve good sleep, it can't start building until 90 minutes after you stop exposure with blue light. Another thing that you can do is to sleep in a cold room. Still have a blanket and still be comfortable, but ideal sleep temperatures are between 60 and 68. That also helps people a lot that snore or have nasal congestion. Let's see. There's so much that I wanted to say, so I was trying really hard to narrow it down because I could talk about sleep a lot. And things that we can do in the morning that are going to set us up throughout the day is that the opposite of melatonin, to simplify it, is cortisol. Cortisol gets a bad rap. It plays some good roles, but we want to spike our cortisol first thing in the morning. Doing that by having sun exposure when you first get up, even if it's only a couple minutes, or just being outside before you go into work, if that's part of your routine, and getting your heart rate up. So doing some form of exercise, even if it's 10 minutes, even if you know that you're going to do your main training later in the day, doing something to get your heart rate up when you first get up, that peaks your cortisol, and your body knows and develops those sleep cues that, well, this is a wake time cue, so that you can taper down, and that can come down when it's time for you to go to bed. Something else that I found out interesting that I didn't know until doing some reading was grounding, which is basically using the earth and to get more free electrons. So cortisol is oxidative. It has a positive charge. So that means we need free electrons to neutralize it. Well, being outside in nature offers you a lot more exposure to free electrons, as well as being physically on the ground, like your actual skin, your bare feet touching the ground, and also being near moving bodies of water. That there's actually more free electrons near a moving body of water rather than just like a lake. That helps actually decrease your cortisol, decrease your overall inflammatory state, and why some people might associate the sound of running water as relaxing, or why some people are most relaxed like when they're at the beach with the lapping water. And I thought that was interesting because I wasn't aware of that.
I was just thinking the same thing, Barb. Barb wrote, no wonder I was drawn to living on the river. I'm thinking Barb is going to be getting the most amazing sleep now. All right.
That's my spiel on sleep.
She's got lots more. I know she does. I'm proud of you, Casey. That was awesome. Thank you. All right. So next up, we've got Kate Hanley White. Kate began adventure racing with her husband, Cliff White, and her father-in-law, Starker, as a fun way to get out into the woods together. She fell in love instantly, as I suspect we all have, and has steadily stepped up her racing game. She's raced in events ranging from 6 hours to 7 days, and that includes Eco Challenge Fiji 2019. And she's the co-owner and race director of Strong Machine AR. She serves on the board of the USARA to support and help grow the sport. And so we're going to transition from Casey talking about how to get great sleep to Kate talking about how not to sleep. All right, Kate.
Thank you, Steph. Yeah, so I think, many adventure racers start with, 6 to 12-hour events, all during the daylight. And if you're anything like me, pretty quickly you start to really want to sort of see what it's like to go through the night. And then once you've gone through the night, maybe you want to go through many nights. So what I'm going to talk about is just some strategies for how to kind of deal with the both racing in the darkness, but also racing without sleep. So pretty much the opposite of what Casey was talking about. Though in my day job, I'm a therapist, so I talk to people a lot about actually sleeping a lot. So I do all those things that Casey said too. But yeah, so my personal experience in building up kind of towards longer races was to start with these shorter daytime events. And then I think pretty quickly within the first year, I was doing 24 to 30-hour races. And then within a couple of years was doing multi-day races. And I think it's, the kind of thing that it's good to remember that a lot of people, especially 20 plus years ago, when they started in the sport, went right to expedition length races. So there's no reason that you have to start with a shorter race. You can go for your, 7-day race right away, but you might want to do some things to prepare yourself in advance. So the big differences about racing overnight are, of course, one, it's dark, as you might know. And then two, the sleep monsters. So sleep monsters being basically that just exhaustion that builds overnight and the fighting of that need to sleep. So a couple of thoughts about both of them. So preparation wise, I think that for racing in the dark, it can be really useful to do some nighttime training. And that doesn't have to be like, going all night with your training, but just doing maybe some trail running or hiking at night or biking at night or paddling at night, just so that you get used to moving with maybe your lights on, your headlights or your bike lights or whatever. I think that helps to just kind of mentally prep and then also to get used to your gear, how it works, kind of how to find things in the dark, how your lights work, if you like them or want to replace them or whatever. It's probably not necessary to practice sleep depriving yourself. I don't think it's necessary to go like for a 24-hour training event, for example. But more, it's probably important to just do some longer training days so that you get used to figuring out how to fuel yourself, for example, like get really good nutrition when you're out for a long effort, build your endurance pace, figure out what pace is comfortable for you for a long period of time. Comfort with your gear, and then foot care, probably something we could talk for a whole other hour about, is how to take care of your feet for the longer races that you're doing. So all that stuff is great to train. The sleep deprivation, I really recommend not training for that. Instead, rest up that week before the race, taper your training, get a lot of really good sleep, show up to the race well rested. And then I'll talk in a moment about some tips for staying awake when you want to fall asleep. So just a little bit on sleep strategy. So you'll find most teams for a 24 to probably 40 or so hour race are not going to sleep at all, especially the teams that are going really hard. And then once the race starts to get longer, people start to sleep more. So I know for our team, our strategy is usually for a multi-day race, not to sleep for the first day, day and a half, certainly not for the first night, and then to sleep about 3 hours every night after that. And we have found, you'll see if you have not done it yet, you should start dot watching, which is basically watching the GPS tracking of some of these big races. And it's really interesting to see some of the top teams who choose to sleep versus don't. So some teams will do a 6-day race and say, oh yeah, we slept 2 hours the whole time. But they tend to make a lot more errors and maybe even move more slowly versus some of the top teams in the world that will sleep, again, a lot, 3 hours a night, which gives a lot more of that kind of mental restoration. Another strategy that we've kind of had to weigh is sort of where to sleep. So the best sleep you can get is, of course, going to be like warm, dry, maybe even during the overnight period of a race, so that your body kind of gets tricked. We love sleeping at from 2 to 5, and then the sun comes up, and when you wake up, it feels like you've gotten maybe a longer sleep than you have. But you can't always sort of pick it exactly right. So still, quality tends to be better than quantity. So sleeping in a cold, wet place where nobody's really sleeping is not worth the time that you're spending to stop. So sometimes that means that we'll sleep in the transition areas because it means that we have access to maybe a big tent and sleeping bags. At Eco Challenge Fiji, we're really lucky to have PACs, which is basically a crew person who was cooking us food, putting tents up for us, laying out our sleeping gear. So we would roll in after usually they were pretty long legs, 36 plus hours. We'd roll in really tired, and all of our stuff would be there kind of taken care of for us. So that was lovely. But for other races where we don't have that, sometimes we're actually deciding to sometimes not sleep in TA because maybe it's really busy, or we roll in and it's noon and the sun's beating down. So sometimes you're having to sort of take sleeping gear with you on the course, which is sometimes okay. Sometimes we find a hotel or I did a race in Norway where we found this farmhouse that had well, we called it a sauna. It was not a sauna. It was basically their furnace room with this really loud clanking furnace, but it was warm and it was dry, and we loved it. They took great photos of us trying to sleep there. Let's see, last but not least, just a couple of tips on how to keep yourself awake. So it's really typical for people to get, of course, sleepy as the night progresses. I know for me, 3, 4 a.m. is a really rough time. I can kind of predict that that's when I'm going to be the sleepiest. So a few things to remember first is eat and hydrate. So I find if I can keep my nutrition really good through the night, that's one less thing that's kind of sucking at my energy and might even be boosting me. And you're not probably used to eating at night. So you have to kind of force yourself a little bit, maybe talk amongst your teammates, everybody eating, okay, check in on how much food people have taken in. Definitely sort of expect that you're going to have mental lows. And I know for me, if I know it's 3 or 4 a.m., then I'm going to make sure that I'm with a teammate, maybe chatting, or I might even take a caffeine pill. That's my one sort of time I would probably do that. Occasionally I'll have usually just maybe one caffeine pill over a 24-hour period. But some people like those energy chews or things like that that have caffeine in them. And then just really important to engage your mind in some way. So maybe looking at the maps or looking for features if you're not navigating, talking strategy, having conversation, singing songs. I do a lot of singing in the night. So lots of things to just try to keep yourself going. And really, I think this is the kind of thing that experience, the more you do it, the easier it gets. But those are a few tips for maybe your first time through.
Yeah. Singing on the paddle, right? You have to sing on those late night paddles. Everyone becomes a rock star, right? Thanks a lot, Kate. All right, next up we have Anna Numlin, and you'll see her on Facebook. Her Facebook profile name is Anna Kirsty, but don't let that fool you. It did me for a while, but her last name is actually Numlin. And Anna started adventure racing in 2004. Her first race was a 12-hour AR that she raced as a soloist, and she's been hooked on it ever since. She's a core member of Team Rib Mountain Racing, consistently one of the top-ranked adventure racing teams in the US, having competed in over 100 adventure races with more than 50 first-place finishes. Along with her husband, Tim Buchholz, Anna is co-race director of one of the highest attended adventure races in the country, the Rib Mountain Adventure Challenge in Wausau, Wisconsin. Outside of adventure racing, Anna is a family nurse practitioner. She works in urgent care and emergency medicine, and she teaches belly dance classes in Wausau. So Anna is going to talk to us about what I'm calling 25-hour days. So we know you got to keep going. How do you keep going? I've seen a lot of people asking about sort of how much to train. So we'll let Anna give you some ideas on that front.
Steph, is Anna on the call? I don't see her name.
You know what? I've just realized you're right. I don't see her name here either. So maybe she had, I don't know, maybe she's been called away or maybe had issues connecting. I don't know. Hook up with Anna on Facebook and she can tell you all about how much she trains to be on a national champion team and lots of other things. She can also tell you how to learn to belly dance. All right, so next up, we've got Olga Huber, and the woods have been Olga's happy place since she was a girl. Growing up in Russia, she spent time with her grandmother picking wildflowers, berries, and mushrooms in the forest. She started trail running in college. She has 3 100-miler finishes and a couple of USA track and field national championship titles. She started AR in 2017 and has been racing exclusively on all-female teams. In 2020, for her 50th birthday, she founded the Fragile Flowers Adventure Race team to encourage women to participate in endurance sports. And Olga is a terrific navigator, and she's going to talk about, her topic is Give Me the Map. So she's going to talk about leading a team as the navigator.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining today. I think Stephanie gave a lot of my background. Basically, I started as a trail runner and kept increasing my distances, you know, marathon, 50K, blah, blah, up to 100-miler. And after that's like, what's next, right? I'm very goal-oriented person. I needed that next goal. And while chatting one of my best friends in Russia, whom I visit often, I started to listen for these stories about orienteering. Wow, this is kind of cool. It's like running in the woods, and I got the running part. Now I just need to figure out, you know, how to find things in the woods. And obviously those of you who know me know I'm really no shy person kind of thing. So immediately when I get back, and I live in Rochester, New York, upstate New York, near Lake Ontario, I found we had an awesome orienteering club. So I looked it up, and there was a training session coming up, and one woman's team of Bridgman was running the course, and I just straight away contacted her and say, hey, you know, I don't know anything about orienteering. Do you mind if I just show up and tag along? And she said, sure. And we orienteered together in the woods for 3 hours in the evening. She has headlamp, I didn't. She has a leg coverage, I didn't. So after the 3 hours, my legs were scratched to the point of real serious needing a Neosporin all over the place. But that was one of the best experiences I had, because I realized, wow, this is so cool. I need to kind of, not only it's physical, but it's also mental. You need to negotiate both of those parts. So I started kind of learn how to navigate, starting from Stina, again, started to race with her on the Rogaines, 24-hour Rogaines. And if you've done 24 hours orienteering on foot, after that, switching to 24 hours orienteering on a bike, pedal, and a run was kind of easier, because once you got the foot part down. And how do you start navigating? Again, look up your local orienteering club, right? Don't be shy to contact people and ask. All the navigators I've known are so willing to share the knowledge, are so willing to have new people to engage and have them followed and, you know, and help you out. Most of our orienteering clubs will have a navigation cleaning before, at least our club does, before every meet. And they could give you a compass and explain to you how to do things. So don't be shy. There are a lot of things you can do on your own, even if you don't have your local club, right? For example, it was great books, Squiggly Lines, that Mark Latanzi wrote, that even after I navigated for years, I found it really valuable. There are permanent courses most orienteering clubs do, so you don't have to be in the time constraints of particular meet hours. You can just go and navigate yourself. Study various maps. Get to the point that you really like to look at the maps. For example, I still do a lot of trail running. I'm still running my ultra marathons. I really like to go and run in the woods. I've never been before. And I usually print a map and I bring a compass, and I don't need my phone. I know I'll be able to find my way down. And it's also great navigation practice. I find that I'll have map and I'll always will pay attention. Yesterday I was running 22 miles on a local Finger Lakes trail with a group, and they were kind of moving a little slow for me. So I just took off, and knowing that I have a map and a compass, I pushed back a couple of times, but I knew, okay, if I just go west here, within a few minutes, I'll hit the trail again. It gives me a whole bunch of confidence on where I am as a person, to where to find myself in the woods. And it gives me more opportunities to do things in different environments where I'm not constantly thinking, is it safe? What happened if I get lost? So when talking about who is the navigator, we're thinking about navigators, the brains of the team, right? And Stina Bridgman, whom I still race a lot on a Fragile Flowers team, she's a perfect example would be. I feel like for great navigators, their mind is always kind of ticking. It's like a processor in a computer. You need to pay attention to a lot of detail. You need to be in touch with the map, right? But this is what sometimes everybody, if you learn to navigate, different people on the team could take part of navigating, right? So for example, if somebody could navigate and they're really strong on a bike, they could navigate on a bike, because even if it's for a short stretch of, straight road, right? They could do this kind of thing. So which takes them, I think, pressure sometimes of a main navigator. So everybody could kind of chip in. I do race primarily on the all-female teams, and I'm wearing my daughter's t-shirt, so I don't know if it's visible really or not. Anyway, the t-shirt says, a woman needs a man. Oh, hold on. Anyway, the bottom says, like a fish needs a bicycle. And Randy, I was wearing that shirt yesterday too, and I forgot to show you. So, and again, what I'm trying to say, I'm not trying to bash men in any shape or form. I think it's, as a women, we so many times we were in the situations that were said, yeah, but you're not a guy. So this is just so great for us to have a community like Women AR to let us know that we do have choices, right? We could do it an all-female team, we could do a co-ed team. We have choices, right? So this is, again, choices, I think, like a great thing in life. And then sometimes navigator would be a team captain of sort, or leader in the team, and sometimes it's not. But if you're talking about being a team leader, what makes a good team leader? Get to know your team, right? What makes them happy? What makes them sad? Be in touch with a team during the race. And sometimes it might be as easy as, looking at them, say, hey, how is everybody's doing? And listening for all your teammates' reply, some grouchy, some happy, somebody might not reply. And that may be your cue to prong them a little bit and say, hey, ask what's going on there. Look for all off behavior, right? You kind of get to know your team, and sometimes if somebody's not reacting the way you usually do, maybe this is time for you kind of to step in. Make jokes, laugh about it, sing songs. All of those are great strategies to kind of keep the team engaged. And also, it's not just, you could not just step in during the race and be a leader, right? You need to be leader of the race as well beforehand, as long as the after. And I know sometimes it's hard for us to pinpoint the personalities. This is where sometimes you can do some homework. So for example, for our Fragile Flowers team, we actually did a DISC assessment, personality assessment. I bet some of you did it for work. It's where you talk about different personalities, Ds, Is, S, and Cs. So we actually did this with my partner as a DISC assessor. And that was a wealth of information. So now when we're talking about it, oh, I know, this person is an I. Your biggest fear is to have a fight, right? So what could I do to make you more comfortable, right? Because different personalities are different. But again, all the personalities bring something to the table. Every woman on the team brings something to the table if she's racing on all female team or a co-ed team, and just celebrating the diversity, celebrating the choices that we have. I think it's one of the most important things of women in AR.
That's a really great tip, the personality assessment for team members. I love that, Olga. Thanks for that. That's a great idea. Okay, I see that Anna has joined us, and so now I'm going to do my Anna intro. Oh no, let's see, I already did the Anna intro. Anna, I already did your intro.
I'm so sorry. By the way, no, I'm so sorry.
That's
So
okay.
I'm out in Bend right now, and I've been like out rock climbing in Smith Rock State Park for the last 3 days. And we got delayed today and I didn't have any reception. So I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I'm late.
That's okay. I did the intro
here
of you before I realized you weren't on the call though. So you've already been introduced. Jump right into talking to women about sort of training, how much you train and how to train for different length of races. I know everybody's curious to hear that.
Oh, from me?
Yeah.
Oh, so so my training, I think it might be a little atypical just because early on in my adventure racing, the only thing I did was adventure race. I really didn't do much other training other than just race as much as possible, which kind of race yourself into shape sort of approach. Now just kind of, being a little bit more competitive. I use Trainer Road, which is a really great program for biking. So it kind of calculates out your whole training plan. So, and just, tells you how much to do and builds it and keeps your workout going like that. And then for running, I've been working more on speed work just because I'm great at endurance, but I'm just not very fast. So I'd like to get faster. So I've been adding more interval training. So I've been trying to bike 3 days, 4 days a week, run 2 to 3 days a week, and then add paddling and strength 1 to 2 times a week. And that's kind of newer for me. I usually before just training is going out with the dogs and running, going to the mountain bike trails, just having fun, keeping it fun. But now we got some more, specific race goals for this year. So dialing it in a little bit more. I don't know if that's helpful. But.
I'm pretty sure the folks on this call who competed at the Berryman over the weekend would take issue. They're laughing at you saying, I'm not very fast. I see Jim Payette shaking her head. She's like, yeah, you are. Okay, so that's all of our mentors. That's all of their topics. So what we'll do to try to keep this somewhat organized, under the little reactions button at the bottom of your screen, if you click on reactions, you'll see there's a button for raise hand. So you should have a toolbar at the bottom of your screen. If you don't, once you take your cursor down to the bottom of your screen, you should see that little toolbar come up. And under reactions, it'll say raise hand. So if you've got a question, if you'll raise your hand, then we'll call on you and you can unmute yourself and ask your question. If you want to just put it in the chat box, you're welcome to do that too. But we're gonna, at this point, open it up to questions for a little while. I'll have a few announcements before we wrap things up, but we're all eager to take questions from the audience. Anybody? If you don't have any questions, Casey's going to start talking about sleep again. Which would not be a bad thing, I should add. Okay, we've got questions. Let's go to Adrienne.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being available to talk to us about this topic. I know Olga had mentioned that, it's not about not including the men, but it is really a safe space to ask women these questions sometimes. And I know there's some men listening too, but I really appreciate the mentorship. And I know my question is very broad, so maybe just a brief answer about what you wear when you race. I think that comes up a lot, and this could be like a whole topic. But that's one of the things I struggle with is what do I want to wear? And I tend to get cold. I tend to wear too much. But just so putting that out to see what you guys think.
I'll begin by noting that if you're on Facebook, I actually uploaded a video last night because at a race last weekend, Dana Fielding, who's an adventure racer and orienteer, well, after that race, she posted on our Facebook group and said, you know, Stephanie, as I watched you getting ready to go out on this Rogaine, you had your hat on and all these little things. And I thought I would love to see a video where you talk about just, you know, everything you wear to go out in a race and why. And so it's about a 30-minute video that I posted to our Women of AR group, Facebook group last night that literally went from head to toe what I wear. So there's that out there, which means I'm not going to talk about what I wear. How about Abby? Do you want to spend just a couple of minutes kind of giving Adrian some thoughts about clothing choices?
Sure, I can do that. So I think the biggest thing is layering and recognizing that like when you start, you're going to be colder than, you know, even 10 minutes in. And I'm terrible at this. I start in way too many layers. I've gotten better, but typically I start in way too many layers because I don't like being cold at the start line. And then I'm, you know, stripping down immediately. And also thinking about what you want to wear when in terms of your bottom. So, you know, do you want to be running in bike shorts? Do you feel comfortable biking in non-padded shorts? I personally, for anything under, for a 24-hour race or under, rarely wear padded bike shorts because I like the flexibility of not having to change. And then when I'm doing expedition races, I will wear padded shorts for the biking legs, but really testing out all of those things as you're training so that you know kind of how your temperature shifts and what feels comfortable in each leg. I would also say that you're often going to be cold. Like I get the coldest getting off the water. And so either having a layer that I can throw on really quickly or recognizing that I will be cold and then I will not be cold after a little while. But like knowing how to fight through that. I'm kind of a wimp when it comes to cold, so I typically don't fight through it and I just throw on a rain jacket. But I think really getting to know how your body reacts in terms of temperature will help guide what you're wearing a fair bit.
Thanks, Abby. Before you mute yourself again, actually, I noticed one of the questions in the chat from Ann Lang is, what races do you know of that have family divisions? Is Rootstock doing your race this year? I know you've put on a race before with a family division.
Yeah, so our family race is in Philly, and which is where we live, and the COVID guidelines don't allow for us to hold that race right now. But typically we do have a short adventure race that has a family division. In the Mid-Atlantic, Goals ARA typically has a family division in their races, and Strong Machine, Kate, their 3-hour race always has a family division as well. I'm not as familiar with family divisions in other parts of the country, but certainly in the Mid-Atlantic, it's something that organizations and Northeast are prioritizing.
Great, thank you. We've also had a question someone posted, and Anna, I'll ask you to talk about this. She says, can you address strategies for racing with your significant other? And I know you and Tim have obviously found a successful combination.
Yeah, racing with your significant other is, and I'll also say our Rib Mountain Adventure Challenge does have a family division also. That's in Wisconsin, Memorial Day weekend too. It's been a constant. It's actually something we talk about before we go into every race. Like we review with each other. Okay, you know, what am I going to do for you to help you race the best? How are you going to communicate with me to help me race the best? Just to give ourselves that mental, you know, that the mental prompting. So it's in the forefront of our mind as we're heading into this stressful situation. You know, I think racing with your spouse, it's just hard because you're so intimate, you know them so well. And there's all these unspoken expectations that you've developed of each other over time that you don't have of your other teammates. You would never have of anybody else in the world except your spouse, you know, and when they don't do something, or maybe when they do something and it triggers you, especially in these stressful situations, you know, if you don't respond in that moment in a good way, then you're trying to walk yourself back for the next half hour or hour, trying to repair the damage. And I know it happens to all of us who race with our significant others. So I will say, yeah, after every race now, because we've had some really not proud moments in our relationship, and they've happened mostly under the stress of racing. And so when that happens, I mean, obviously you got to make sure that, you know, your team comes first, and you got to, you know, make it through. But then after the race, we'll debrief together in the car on the ride home and say, hey, you know, you did this really well, like you were, you know, amazing at this. And then we'll say, hey, like this really, like I really using nonviolent communication, right? I felt this when this happened, and just acknowledging, like I really felt left behind, and like I was not a part of the team when I was, you know, 100 meters back, and you guys were way up racing in front of me. You know, I was struggling, and you didn't see me, and I felt like I wasn't a part of the team. You know, this is something that is an issue for me quite often, and something that we work through as a couple. And so, you know, what can he do to make me feel like I'm a part of the team, and make me feel yeah, like I'm valued, and I'm seen, and I'm heard, and those sorts of things. So we talked through that. And actually, I will tell you that, so we didn't race much last year, but the year before we were racing a lot and having some issues. And I said, look, you know what, like this is the first, and our marriage is fantastic. We have an awesome marriage. We've been together for almost 14 years and racing together for longer than that. But this is the first time we actually went and saw a marriage counselor, and it was fantastic. And we talked only about racing with this marriage counselor. And I got to hand it to her. Like she brought it, she met us right there. We're like, so we have this really very specific situation. We're very competitive in this one niche sport, and this is what we need help with. And it was just so wonderful to go and talk to her, you know, and have her feedback, because she really helped us just have like a third person to do that. So I would highly recommend seeing a marriage counselor for adventure racing with your partner. Yeah, those are, I guess, some of the things that have really helped with us. And it's a constant thing. Before every race, we're talking about it. After every race, we're debriefing in private together. And then during the race, we're just like, we're just going to race. We're going to try to not judge, you know, and just the best that it can be. So.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Anna. That's another awesome, like just solid tip. See a marriage counselor about racing, right? Even if your marriage is great. I think that's awesome. So Kate Ballantyne says that she would love to hear more about strategies for team dynamics. I wonder how many of us worry about slowing down the team. And I'm going to throw in my 2 cents worth here, just because, yeah, all the time, Barb says, yeah, all the time. I am so much slower than my teammate, Sarah Dahlman. Anyone who's seen Sarah race knows that she's just a total beast. She's so strong and so fast. You know, and so first and foremost, we manage expectations, right? And so she knows that when she comes to race with me, we're not going to be, you know, in the top 3 overall, right? So there are times when she races on co-ed teams, and her goal when she goes and races on co-ed teams or co-ed masters teams is to be competitive. There are times when she races with me and her goal is to have fun, right? And so a big part of dealing with that sort of stress and the emotion of feeling like you're holding your team back is that you've managed expectations on the front end, and your team all has the same set of goals. Because if you go into a race and your teammates are expecting to place top 3 in your division or whatever, and your goal is to go out and have fun or just to finish or whatever, that's going to cause a lot of team conflict. So the best way to ensure good team dynamics on the course is to make sure that you're going in with the same goals and the same expectations, and that you're agreed on that at the front end. And then the other thing that I had to learn early on was to be really humble and accept a toe from Sarah. And at first it's really difficult because, you know, you feel that toe line go taut, and you know it's because she's faster than you, and, you know, she's training more, and there are all those sort of guilt feelings of being the person on toe. But you know, with good conversation and good communication with your teammate, you learn to accept that, you know, being humble is part of being a good teammate. You know, and sometimes you're going to be the stronger teammate. And so it's all about how do you get the team as a whole across the finish line fastest. And with Sarah and I, 98% of the time, that means Sarah's towing me. And Sarah is happy to tow me. She feels like she's contributing. I'm our lead navigator. And so that's sort of my role. And so, you know, again, it's expectations. So, you know, if she knew that I was just sitting at home doing nothing and not training and preparing, and that's why she was having to tow me, that would probably be very frustrating for her. But, you know, as it is, she knows that when I've committed to do a race with her, I train and prepare as much as I can. I also have a busy day job. And so, you know, it's that, and so it takes a lot of compassion and understanding on the part of the person towing. It takes a lot of humility on the part of the person being towed. And there we go. That was more than just my 2 minutes, but I feel like I am an expert on that because I've been being towed by Sarah for, I don't know, 15 years now. So.
I'd like to add just a little to what you just said, Steph.
Yeah.
That also on tow, sometimes it just keeps people together. Like we were in a recent expedition race in Florida, and my boat had on tow our other boat, because it's just those little bits that just pull people apart. The line might be slack, but it can, you know, it just it makes that little tug just so that you can keep everybody together, especially in an expedition race. And in those conditions, it was a really good idea, and for various reasons. Also, when I did nationals last time, we had a very fast teammate, Kevin, and I was able to keep up on foot, but I was so sleepy that I was just having a hard time. Just, I don't know what was that 4 to 5 a.m. I was just like, come on, come on, come on. And I said, can I get on your toe just so you can tug me to remind me to keep going? I mean, because I was just falling back because I just wasn't meant, like, for an hour. I was eating everything I had. I was drinking everything I had. And I just wasn't able to be super present. And they were pretty speedy guys, and I didn't want to slow them down. So sometimes the toe it can be useful just to pull someone along, and that's awesome. The end also is sometimes it just keeps people together, and there's no shame in keeping people together.
It creates emotional bonding. Like, you know, yeah, you end up, that's part of the reason Sarah and I are so close as a team. And Shay asking about tow for hike-a-bike. Oh yeah, you will see, you know, Sarah Dahlman in a race pushing her bike uphill. The tow rope is going to the, you know, stem of my bike, and she's towing my bike while I'm sort of leaning on my bike. She's pulling us both up the hill. I told you she's super strong. We're getting a lot more great questions in this chat. I wonder about, there's some interest here in adaptive sports and events. I wonder if anyone here knows Andrea Anderson and Team This Ability. That, you know, I know Andrea, maybe we can try to connect some of these people up. I don't know sort of what resources they have through Team This Ability, but I'm willing to bet that we could connect you all, and that may be a resource for you. Jen Payette has her hand up.
Hey guys. Okay, so wondering, I know Abby and Anna both race with your husbands, right? So my question is, do you all use the same training plan? I know Abby had said that she was using Jen. So is your training plan specific for you, and are your other teammates following kind of a different training plan, or do you kind of chat about it together and you're all kind of following the same training plan, but obviously giving your individual strengths and stuff? So I was kind of wondering how you do that.
Yeah, so Kate also races with her husband, and actually all three of us at this point work with coaches. Anna, you work with Sarah, right?
Not anymore. I worked with both Sarah and Jen in the past, and now I'm doing my own thing. So
Okay. I will say for us, we've actually had different members of the Rootstock team all working with Jen at the same time, doing totally different. It's amazing. Like you'll all be training for the same race, and she'll have you all doing totally different things. For me and Brent, and I think Jen knows this, he will look at some of the stuff that she's programming for me, recognizing that it's tailored for me and that we are only paying for me. But he will borrow from my training plan and kind of adapt to his schedule and to kind of what he's training for. And he has found her workouts to be really useful, but she is not training both of us. And my sense is that Kate, at least, Kate's experience has been similar. She can speak to that.
Yeah, I can say briefly, like, and just amongst all of our teammates, we all have pretty different training approaches. My husband trains really differently than I do. And so for him, it's very much like, I think this is something just in general that's good to know about yourself. Like, I am very motivated by a coach. If I see that I have a workout scheduled, I will not miss it. If I'm scheduling stuff for myself, I'll be like, nah, I'll just push that out, another day. Cliff is, he can just sort of motivate himself with ease. He also, and I think this is often true just between men and women, like the kind of training load that works best for him is different than mine. He can do a lot of like really, really high intensity, like bike rides, for example, with like really high power output, and get like a nice endurance impact from that, when I really need to go out for a 3-hour bike ride in order to get some of that like longer endurance training. So I do think that just like gender wise, there can be some differences, but also like just approach to training. And so we train almost completely differently, which is probably good because we also have I have a 3-year-old. So it's sort of like trying to, pass off the child and kind of make room for training.
Thanks, Kate. Abby, I'm going to go back to you because the question earlier was, does anyone race on a team where your husband is racing on a different team? And I know Abby can speak to what that was like when Abby's Rootstock team won the national championship the year Brent's team was also racing and did not win. That I imagine being really stressful, and at the same time, I know Brent had to have been just over the moon for you because he saw how hard you worked for that. So you want to talk about that?
I will. And then speaking of having to have competing priorities, I'm going to need to go and hang out with some bedtime routines. Yeah, so that was the first year I started working with Jen, and we had 2 Rootstock squads that wanted to go to nationals, and Brent just wasn't having a great season. He had been like sick on and off and just wasn't feeling great. And the team kind of collectively decided that our strongest kind of threesome was me and Jim and Brian that year. And that was like excruciating. Actually, that was far more excruciating than the race itself. Just having to kind of like go through that process of figuring out who was the best team. Brent is also like, I would put him amongst the top navigators in the world. So he, neither he nor I is ever going to be the fastest or the strongest. And I will race on a team with my husband, more than I would race with anybody else, both because he's my husband and also because he's so good at maps. But so we made that decision. He ended up having an extremely strong race. He felt fantastic. It was like a physical comeback for him, which was awesome. But yeah, we ended up coming in first, and they had a kind of an issue and fell back into the pack. And I was pretty worried about it. And he was like, as Steph said, like over the moon. Like he came across the finish line in tears because he was so excited for us. And it like totally disarmed any tension that might have been there, other than like playful banter of, well, if we have to do it again. And then the following year, actually, we did win a second one. I had a miscarriage a few weeks before and was so not kind of at nationals physically or mentally. And there was talk of me not racing before I had the miscarriage. And Brent was like, all right, this is my chance. I can win one before you come back. And then this past year, 2019, he came in second and was like, oh, I didn't get my second one. So there's lots of banter about it, but it's a very sweet, like not tension laden banter at all. That wasn't a great answer to your question, Stefan.
No, I think that was great. No, it was great. Yeah, and I think the point is, you know, if you're going to race on a different team alongside your spouse, you know, at the end of the day, the expectation should be you're going to be really happy for him when he succeeds. And I'm the same way with Ben. Ben and I go out and do, you know, we did a 6-hour road game last week and he destroyed me. We both did it solo. And we both were actually going to take the same route, and he executed it very nicely, and I did not, and was much slower and did so poorly. But I'm always so happy for him when he succeeds that, yeah, it's just there's no sense of competition really with us. But, yeah, okay. So everyone say happy birthday to Zoe before they head off. Happy birthday, Zoe!
Happy birthday, Zoe!
Thank you. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yay.
I may come back after bedtime if y'all are still on, but so good to see you.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Abby. And I know Barb is saying she's going to have to go. Barb, thanks so much. We really appreciate all your input. Okay, we've still got several of us here. Any other questions? If not, then I'm just going to, oh yeah, go ahead.
Hi, just curious. I'm just going by the faces I see, not the ones I don't. I'm guessing I'm closer to the older end of the spectrum. And I'm curious how many folks got started adventure racing after 40 and what did that feel like? And how did you get yourself geared up to do that in a way that felt like you were not necessarily competitive, but at least having fun and maybe being somewhat competitive? And by the way, I'm past the 40, I'm over 50.
I turned 50 last year. I found adventure racing at the age of 32. So, you know, I wasn't a youngster, and I came to it sort of like Barb after a significant weight loss, like 80-pound weight loss. So I was not athletic as a younger woman at all. I was really unhealthy when I turned 30, in fact, for lots of reasons. So, you know, I think you'll find a lot of stories of transformation like that within the AR community. So what I want is for everyone here who is 50 or older to do a raise hand. So we'll see how many pop up here. Can you all see the hands raising on your chat thing? Yeah. So
yeah, you can see them.
Yeah. Okay. So what you're seeing is you've got some great company, and I can tell you, you know, there are some hardcore racers out there. My teammate Sarah that I was talking about, who pushes her bike and tows mine at the same time. Sarah is a year older than I. She'll be 52 in about 2 weeks. So you're definitely not on your own. Hey, Barb, do you want to talk for just a minute about you and Brenda Carlson Brown? She's one of the strongest people I know.
Yeah, Brenda and I are best friends, and she just turned 60 and I'm 51, and she teases me that I have to be the runner. I'm 51, but we find lots of adventures to do together, and seek to compete pretty hard, even when it's you know, too female. I don't know. I mean, I think part of it is the part of adventure racing is being confident and just knowing that the adventure starts when things go wrong and being able to handle that. Because I see people out on the race course and things just go badly, and I'm like, what? Just stop for a minute and, you know, gather yourself. And I think those women, first of all, are better at that, and for the most part. And secondly, as we get older, I think we shed some of the layers of expectations and just are able to keep moving forward. At least that's been my experience, and I think it's helpful that I have a long history in crisis intervention, so that helps. I think me on the race course too. So Monette, you would be awesome out there because you just have such a great personality and can do and make it happen. And I would love to see you out there. Oh, I just saw the favorite food. I've got to answer that, and then I really got to go. I'm sorry. Because I promised my husband we were going to watch Great British Baking Show tonight, and we go to bed at 9:30. Like, we're religious about when we go to bed, Casey. We go to bed at the same time every night. Yeah. And yeah, yeah. And you're my girl. My favorite, my pull me out of the dumps food is an oatmeal cream pie. My teammates know when that comes out, I just need a little love, just a little bit of love. But seriously, I roast my own nuts. I buy raw nuts and then I roast them in olive oil and extra Himalayan salt, and then mix them up with a little bit of figs and apricots. And that is that I find that's a go-to for me. RX bars are really good too. Um, so and jerky and cheese is big for me too. So sorry, I gotta go, but I would love to connect with any of you. And I've learned so much from all of you, from you, Stephanie. And I'm going to be following up with you because I have some questions. And Olga and Anna and Kate. I mean, this has been awesome. So count me in any capacity. And Casey, man, I gotta talk to you more about sleep. You're my
Casey's
person. Sleep is
Casey's the
big.
sleep goddess. Yeah.
It's the free most effective recovery tool we have.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right.
Barb, thanks a lot. I'm going to add one more comment off of what Barb said about racing into our more mature years. You know, one of the big advantages we've got over younger people is, number one, your navigation is something that just keeps getting better over time, right? You might get slower speed wise, but you're going to become a better navigator for the rest of your life. As long as you keep practicing it, that's a skill that's going to continue to develop. So, you know, I wish I had my navigation skill now with the speed I had when I was 35, right? I don't, but, you know, sometimes she said you feel like you're treading water. But besides that, you also have just the rich experience of, you know, racing and having, you know, life experience, all of these different things, whether you've come to it from hiking or whatever, all of that goes into the, you know, strategizing and decision making. So, you know, that's the thing about AR is it's as much a mental game. Endurance, you've got more endurance. You know, there's just a lot of different aspects to adventure racing that emphasize skills and traits other than speed. And so that's why, you know, I think orienteering and adventure racing, I think are such terrific sports to carry into, you know, well into your later years. Let's hear a couple of our mentors talk about some of their favorite foods, because we see a lot of that as well. Kate, why don't you talk a little bit about some of your favorite foods, especially for some of the longer, I know we don't always have people cooking for us like you did in Eco Challenge in the TA. So what do you do when you don't have your personal chef waiting for you at the TA?
That was an unusual luxury. It was wonderful. But yeah, usually we're all about just like boil in a bag meals, like get into the TA, get some hot water going. Some races will have hot water for you. Ramen, love, you know, all forms of ramen. And good to go is like a camping meal. That's our favorite one. So if you're looking for like a longer race meal, those are delicious and packed with things. Otherwise, I would say just for any kind of race, I'm always looking at just like high calorie food that is lightweight. I recently found these like dried banana covered in peanut butter, covered in chocolate things that were just incredible. I had them at the Shenandoah Epic last weekend. So highly recommend that. But I eat a lot of like peanut butter based things. For some reason, that's like one of the only foods that no matter what, I can always kind of get down. But real food is great whenever you can have it. So even just things like Barbara was saying, I'm vegetarian, so I wouldn't do jerky, but cheese, things like that is great during a race, just like kind of high energy foods like that.
That's interesting to hear you say you're a vegetarian. I didn't know that. I'm a vegetarian as well. Casey's a vegan. Casey, why don't you talk for a minute? And she's also like she's deep into the sleep thing. She's also deep into nutrition. She's yeah, you can learn a lot about all those things from Casey. What are some of your favorite go-tos?
So my tendency to hyper focus on things is showing. Uh, so when I'm racing, Matt Mitchell actually made these for me as a surprise at a race, were black bean sweet potato burritos. And it was a 24-hour race. And we were really cold on the paddle. It was a spring race and it was night. And I realized, I was like, I just want something warm. We weren't going to be at a TA, and realized I could put the burrito in between my boobs, finish the paddle, get out, put on a dry shirt, and take a bite of hot food. And I was like, I'm a witch. We're going to finish. This is great. So that's every race. Like if it's cold, I'm going to plan to be able to eat something hot when other people can't or don't. For some reason that's terrible of me. It makes it taste better when I know I'm eating hot food and other people aren't. So I'm just constant. That's what I do.
I saw someone asked about how the mentor page works on Facebook. So I kind of covered that at the beginning and of this. So I'm not going to go back into my screen share that I did. I'm trying to see if there's a way. I did a little screen snippet. I'll try to post that up here. But basically, if you go into the Facebook group, you'll see in the little ribbon there, one of the tabs, there's about, discussion, and mentorship. And if you click on that mentorship tab, then you're going to see the profiles of all the mentors that you've met here tonight. And there's a button for each one of us that says start conversation. It's just going to send a message through Facebook Messenger to the mentor that you want to try to connect with. So, and then it's kind of, there are some, you'll get these cues. Jen Payette and I are connected through the mentorship program, and every once in a while, Facebook will send me a little message, a little sort of ding ping reminder. Hey, have you talked to Jen this week about whatever? And it'll like give you little topics and little cues about what you can talk about. And she and I are both kind of like, whatever, we can communicate, right? So, you know, once you connect, then it's kind of what you make of it. And so like what Jen and I did is we set up a Zoom, one-on-one Zoom session before her race at the Berryman, and just kind of talked about race planning, what you do when you get the maps. And we just sort of really walked through in a one-on-one fashion, getting ready for the Berryman. And then as importantly, after the race, she and I sat down in another Zoom session. She had all of her maps and we were able to throw those up on the screen and talk about her race. We went through blow by blow, how the race went, what went right, what went wrong. We looked at the routes they took and some of the points that they went for, and talked about, you know, as a newer team learning navigation, how you make those choices in terms of strategizing your race. So, you know, it's the mentorship will become whatever you need it to be. And so the profiles are really there for you to kind of get to know us, and hopefully you've gotten to know us all a little bit better here today, and sort of see, you know, we all have different strengths. Some of us are much better rounded and able to talk about a much broader range of topics, like Casey, than others of us. I kind of wing it on most topics, but I'm a really good navigator and strategizer. So if that's what you want to learn to do, you can call me. But, you know, so everybody's got their own sort of strengths and things that they've done. And some of it's just personality, right? You're just going to sort of click with some of us and not others as well, whatever. So start a conversation with somebody that you think you might click with and that can help you along. And then at that point, it's really what the two of you make of it. Okay, any other questions? Anybody? And of course, if things come up, if you think about something afterwards that you wish you had asked, that's what the group is for. Feel free to post on the group. Oh, that reminds me, I was supposed to do our drawing for this week's Women of AR t-shirt. Our drawing is supposed to be tonight. I'll tell you, I completely forgot about it because I was getting ready for this. So I didn't print all of the names out for my drawing. I'll tell you what I'm going to do instead. Casey, I'm going to ask you to come up with a number between 1 and 35, and then I'm just going to count down to that comment. So don't make it too high, because I'm going to have to count down while we do our drawing here. Got to find that comment.
I think that Casey might be fielding a child situation.
I think
There we
she's
go.
inviting her to choose a number. Is that what you're doing?
You want to tell them your number?
Yeah,
Tell them your number.
16.
16, number 16. Okay, I gotta find the correct comment. All right, talk amongst yourselves, and I'm gonna count down the number 16.
I'm going to sneak away for bedtime. It was nice spending the evening with you all.
You too, Casey, thanks. I'll tell you what, why don't we have Anna, you wanna hop on and talk about some of your favorite race foods while I count down to 16 and find our winner of this week's door prize drawing.
Sure. For short races, anything less than, 6 hours, 12 hours, I usually stick with just kind of quote unquote race food, stuff that you get at the bike store. One of my favorite things, instead of gels and goos, is now they sell little packets of just straight maple syrup, and it is amazing. There's a couple of different brands that make it, but you could package your own too. And it's so much more palatable than goos and gels, at least for me. So that's been great. Actually, climbing out here, I was introduced to a new bar called Picky Bars. And I am a huge fan. Abby is shaking her head. I had never had them before, different texture. I will definitely be using those for races. Like everyone else has said, things that aren't like longer races, things over, they're available at Trader Joe's. Longer races, things like that go into 24, 30 hour, I like to have more real food and a little bit more junk food mixed in. So things that are like salty and crunchy are really nice. Things that aren't just sweet and mushy. And like in this last race for our transition off the paddle, we had an Ensure, a mini Coke, and some chips and honey mustard pretzels. And it was like total restart, game changer. It's like you're starting the race all over again, like fresh, ready to go after a good transition. So yeah, any of those foods I love. And peanut butter Snickers. They come in little like squares, perfect size, lots of calories. Those are probably my favorite go-tos.
And Anna, why don't you tell people before you mute about your the next Rib Mountain race coming up?
Yeah, so this year we're actually adding another division to our race. So it's Memorial Day weekend, which I think is May 28th, 29th in Rib Mountain, Wisconsin, so central Wisconsin. There's a 3-hour beginner race that's super beginner friendly, easy navigation. We have a lot of families and kids that do it. Great intro to adventure racing. We have our 8-hour kind of classic race that we've had for the last 6 years. And then this year, for the first time, we're adding an 18-hour division because Nationals is going to be in Wisconsin for the first time ever. So we're hoping to give people a chance, like another opportunity to experience overnight racing in a more friendly way leading up to Nationals. So kind of, similar terrain. So it'll be starting on Friday night, which I think is great because you're fresh, you're headed into the night portion. You haven't been racing all day and you're not exhausted heading into night racing. So this will start Friday night and you're racing fresh through the night. You get a little tired, before the sun comes up, but then the sun comes up and you get your second wind and then you can race through the day and finish at 5 o'clock. So we have a 3, an 8, and an 18-hour this year.
Awesome. And then Abby, do you all still have, I know also Memorial Day weekend over on the further east is going to be the Two Rivers Adventure Race. Do you all still have slots in the 15-hour?
Yeah, so we have a 36 and a 15-hour, and the 36 is sold out, but there is still space in the 15, which starts Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and goes until 9 a.m. And it's got trekking and pack rafting optional, and biking and lots of fun navigation. There's a bunch of folks on the call who are doing the 36, but I'm looking at Monette and Blair in particular and hoping I can get the two of you out for our 15.
Terrific. Let's see. So I've got Rootstock, I've got Rib, the Unbridled Women Adventure Race. This is a women's only 3-woman teams adventure race that I'm directing at Greenbow Lake State Park in Eastern Kentucky. That's June 26th. And our website is unbridledwomenar.com. Also, I'll mention there's a women's only event called the Buff Betty that Adventure Addicts Racing puts on. They haven't announced the date yet, but they've announced that that race is going to happen this year. It's in September over in Virginia. So September in Virginia, the Buff Betty. I've heard really great things about it, about that
I
race.
just want to plug in real quick. Fragile Flowers are thinking about putting our own event too in October, Columbus Day weekend. So if you're on the East Coast, we are based in Rochester, New York, and we are thinking of having a clinics on Saturday for women only, paddling clinics, navigational clinics, and have a shorter race on Sunday.
Terrific. Columbus Day weekend, you said?
Yes.
Okay, so mark your calendars, October. That sounds awesome, Olga. Thank you. Any other race announcement? Kate, what have you all got going on up in Maine?
Yeah, we've got, so yeah, we're in Maine, and we've got the Maine Summer Adventure Race July 17th, and that's going to be a family 3-hour event, an 8-hour event, and a 24. And then late September, we'll have our Wildlands Adventure Challenge, which is an 8-hour race. We have a 3-2. And we're also going to do something different this year. We're going to do a 2-day sort of stage race. So you can, if you'd like, run race 8 hours on Saturday and then another different course 8 hours on Sunday.
That's terrific. Okay. I think that's all our announcements. So, except for the winner of this week's Women of AR t-shirt, right, which is what I'm wearing right now. Well, not this one. We have another one. Is, where did I write it down? Kelly Vance Moise. Kelly Vance Moise. M-O-I-S-E. Is it Moisey? Maybe that's Moisey. You'll have to tell me, Kelly, how to pronounce your last name. So Kelly's the winner, and then announcement for this week's contest. So if you haven't participated yet, these contests, basically we announce, we do a drawing for the previous week on Sunday evening and announce this week's contest. And you basically have all week on the Facebook group to like and comment on whatever the question topic is for that week. And then we do a drawing. You have until Saturday night, and then we do the drawing Sunday. So you've got Sunday to Saturday to comment, and we've generated some great discussion, lots of questions, lots of advice. What I really love about this group is we've got such a nice mix of beginners and then, you know, people like the mentors you've seen here tonight. So there's a lot of knowledge going around, which is super exciting. And so this week's topic is going to be paddling, basically anything paddling related. It can be a question, it can be some advice, it can be your favorite song that keeps you awake when you're paddling those late night paddles on the lake, whatever it is, anything paddling related. And I'll post up the comment on our group, so find that and you can be entered into our drawing and we'll mail you a Women of AR t-shirt. So I think that's it. Again, you can find us all in the Facebook group, and we really appreciate everybody sitting in tonight, joining us, all the great questions, all of our fantastic mentors. Thanks to all of you. And we recorded this, so we'll have it out there. If you have some other women that you can recruit in, share this with them, please. You know, one of the things that we've noted in some of the information that's come in, when you joined the Women of AR group, you had to answer some questions. And one of those questions was, how did you hear about adventure racing? And I'm seeing pretty much an equal blend of Eco Challenge Fiji on Amazon Prime and A Friend Told Me About It. So if you want more women to race with you, you got to go out and find them and pull them in. So invite women to our group on Facebook, invite them to come train with you, race with you, and that's how we grow this sport. So thanks, everybody. Have a great night.